going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. We are back to react to some of your comments. And you know what? I've seen some of your comments out there this week. I've seen them. Let's see if Sim has picked them to react to them.
Of course. Obviously. Let's reignite the debate. Not bored of it already. The Van der Ven interview has caused a lot of discussion in the chat. So let's get going. First of all, we got Cozy BX. Says, come on, Ben, give Ange credit. He implemented the changes, describing him as pig-headed and can't adapt was your comments last year. And he adapted and listened and won us a trophy. What do we have now? Crap. Pragmatic and so open anyway, because Frank, adaptable, we need to eat humble pie. And get him back. He is the only coach that can come in and hit the ground running, as he knows the players and the players know him. Make him interim until the end of the year, and if he gets us top 4 or a trophy, he stays on. Otherwise, we can get someone else in the summer. Frank will get us 14th and no Europe next year. I don't think I could take that one game a week while around us they enjoy European midweek. Do it, Vinay, show some balls. But his ally in Johan Lang will not allow that ever. Very dark days ahead. Very dark days ahead.
So what part are we addressing first? That's a big, long old comment there.
That Ange is pig-headed and can't adapt was your comments last year.
I don't think I've ever used the word pig-headed ever in my life before.
Always,
I don't think I've ever used that word ever.
It was a different animal every game. Give Ange some credit, Ben. You never gave him any credit.
I did give him credit. I did give him credit. I was pouring out my love to him after the Europa League final and after the parade and everything like that. I just felt like... So wait, what am I supposed to be reacting to here?
He says, give Ange credit, and he's the only one who can come in now and hit the ground running.
The only manager in the world that can come in and hit the ground running.
He's
the only one. I think, look, credit where credit's due. He did come into this club and hit the ground running. Those first 10 games were special. They really were. But, you know, that was his best run as Spurs manager in the 2 years here. Obviously, he's got the Europa League run as well, but as much as the Europa League run ended in the best thing we've ever seen, those first 10 games did have that special feel to it, didn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, I feel like with Van der Ven's comments, he was calling out Ange's deficiencies a little bit as a manager, but credit to him. He listened to his players and adapted, and it got us the trophies. Like, if the players never would have stepped in, would we have won that trophy?
We'll never know.
Yeah.
We'll never know. But he did adapt. That's the most important thing. He did win the trophy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And look, we're not getting Ange back. But what do you think about? He says Frank will get us 14th and no Europe next year.
Well, the way things are going, it doesn't look too unrealistic. But look, we just need to move on. Like, from Ange. Ange has gone. Ange got sacked at the end of last season. We do have Frank now. Frank ain't going anywhere. So we just got to hope and pray that he can turn it around. If he does finish 14th and we get no European football, then he'll be gone at the end of the season, and then we'll be looking for a new manager. But, like, what more can we say? Ange ain't coming back. Ange is gone. There's no point, like, keep revisiting it every week.
Yeah, I guess it's very hard for people who thought it was the wrong decision, when we have sacked him and for what we've brought in. And now we're sitting here with this turgid football. I know it was bad at times last season as well, but we're sitting here watching this horrible football, not getting a shot on target. It's like, why did we do this, essentially?
Yeah. I get it. I do get it, but this is where we're at right now.
I know, but it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Next one is Soft5930 says, Sim is the biggest Ange apologist. Get over it, man. He's not coming back.
Literally word for word what I just said, apart from the apologist bit.
Yeah, I am an apologist for Ange. Guilty as charged. No, I'm joking. But
you're not joking. You're definitely not joking.
Bring him home. Look, Van der Ven discussed it, so obviously we're going to talk about it because it was a big part of his interview. As a lot of it was about Ange, so we spoke about it. I know he's not coming back, although I'm going to start calling for it soon if things. You
already have.
I would do it now.
You already have.
I'm not going to start pushing it though. I'm not going to start pushing it until it gets.
Pushing it to who? Who are you going to push it to?
The narrative on the videos. I'm not sitting here saying go get him, but I would. I would.
Like, even if you do push it, like, he wouldn't want it. He wouldn't want to come back.
You never know. He's out
There
of
is
job.
no chance.
He's got his boys here. He's got his boys.
He has got a pina colada on the beach in Greece. That's what he's got. You know what I mean?
Oh, he's got that itch. Trust me, he's got that itch.
There is no chance.
Thomas Havonek says, Sim, your comparison about intensity with Arsenal makes zero sense. Arteta didn't play high intensity football first 2 or 3 seasons because he hasn't the depth. He waited for rebuild to be done and started with a new system. Now they can afford to have so much injuries. On the other hand, Ange wanted to skip the rebuild and take over a ready team. Now you are trying to excuse him and shift blame using Arsenal example. But if you ignore their first 3 years of a rebuild and consider only their recent seasons, we didn't have the strength for his system. So he had to adapt. He refused to do that, showing how little regard he has for player health. He definitely did adapt, Arteta, when he first came in, because they won the FA Cup playing 3 at the back, but wasn't necessarily the same in the league. Second season, okay, I mean, I don't think he did adapt because they went on a horrible run. He didn't exactly adapt very well. But in the end of the season, very strongly. I don't remember how the injuries were, to be honest, at that point. But then the third season, he definitely went strong. Like, he was going full pelt. He wasn't holding back. So I don't know.
He must have adapted in some way to change the bad form into good.
The third season.
Second season.
He might have adapted his tactics, but I don't remember. But in terms of intensity, I don't think he was going less intense. I don't know. Maybe I can't remember, to be honest. I have to go look back at his football. I just remember it was the football was not great at the beginning. He was like 14th. 15 games in or something, and then it got a lot better from like January onwards. But yeah, first season he did, but from then on, I mean, I think he always tried to play attacking, but it just wasn't working. I don't think he was like immediately coming in, we're going defensive. In fact, when he first came in, he started like playing a lot more possession based, but he realised to win the trophy he's going to have to adapt and play free attack, and that's what he did.
I felt like the defensive football from Arteta came in a bit later, didn't it?
It came in like after that collapse in the league when they were 8 points clear with a few games to go, and they kind of ran out of steam. Yeah, and then the next season he started playing a bit more defensively.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But he's always played like intensely, even though like it wasn't like defensive every game. He's always had this intensity about him. That's how they control every stage of the pitch. Like they're very intense.
Yeah, but they haven't been controlling every stage of a pitch like ever since he's been there. You know what I mean? It's only been a recent thing that.
I think he's always tried to.
Yeah.
I think that's always been the goal. But my point being, like, you have to have intensity to be a top team. That's my point.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it's not, you can't, I don't think anyone can come in and be like, okay, maybe Ange was extreme, I get that. But my point is, to expect a top team to not play really intense and be more intense than the opposition, that is obviously what you got to try to do when you're a top team.
Yeah.
And I understand, like,
that is a fundamental of being a top team, to be intense.
And that's
100%.
risky, and that's always going to risk injury.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so I understand Ange was like really intense, but I just don't buy like people saying, oh, Ange's way of playing, that's what caused the injury. Like, I get it was extreme, and maybe it was a factor. I also understand that, but like to say like, oh, and because of that, we shouldn't try and be more intense or one of the most intense teams in the league. Like, that's what you got to try and be.
Yeah, but I think what Arteta does pretty well is he understands the tools he have at his disposal, and he kind of manages accordingly to that. And like when they were really attacking and gung ho and they weren't too defensive at all, he realised they've got unbelievable defensive players. They need to play with a bit more of a defensive structure and he can win games a lot like that. And I think obviously they've done that really well over the last year. Ange, I felt like he obviously did well at a certain time, but in terms of using and utilising a small squad that he had and a lot of kids, like he could have managed things a different way to manoeuvre our seasons a bit better. And I felt like he didn't take into account too much about what he had at his disposal too much.
I understand that, but I also think Arteta, maybe you could say, only really did that after 4 or 5 seasons. Like, Ange had 2 seasons. Yes, there were mistakes made. I'm not saying he was perfect, then far from it, but he made mistakes. But I actually think by the end of it, he did adapt. He won the trophy, and also he still has a way of playing that I think can be successful.
Yeah, the difference is though is that this was Arteta's first ever job in managing a team. Like, Ange is supposed to be an experienced manager.
Yeah,
he's supposed to know all this.
That's fine, but it's also his first experience in Europe, and as in European football, and also managing European football and Premier League football. At that level. And so I get that. I get what you're saying, but it's also a fairly new experience at that time for him as well.
Yeah, but still, like, managing a group of people is still the same thing, whether you're in the Premier League or whether you're not in the Premier League. Like, you should know. Well, I guess the Premier League is more intense than maybe he underestimated the intensity of the Premier League.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I think he did. I think there were mistakes made, 100%. But I think that was a learning curve where I think you gave him the opportunity to learn, and then there was still something to stick with, but whatever, we didn't. The Danny 88 says, "Oh, come on, Sim, listen to your brother. Ange should have seen this before Mickey and Kuti made that meeting."
I've been trying to tell him this for pretty much 30 years, mate. Like, if he ain't listening now, he ain't ever going to be listening.
But the thing is, Ange, I understand what Mickey van der Ven was saying, but Ange as well, like, we weren't this just crazy high pressing team like before that Frankfurt game. Like, we weren't always just trying to do that. He did drop the defence, or whether it was we were forced to, or whether it was his decision, I don't know, I guess. But the reality is, when we start the season, we were super aggressive, went at teams, and then when all the injuries hit, we weren't that team. Now, whether it's because we weren't good enough to be that team and he was still trying to do it, or whether it was a decision, okay, we need to drop back, but we did drop the defensive line while we weren't going high.
Yeah.
The problem is we were still shit, because for me it's probably because we had shit players, but also maybe because tactically you can adapt, but maybe a bit of both. But so I don't know.
But it's interesting, Mickey saying it black and white. Saying,
yeah, but I think I tell you why I think Mickey's saying it is because I think when the plan was, when these players come back for Europa League, all right, we're going to go back to what we were doing beginning of the season. And then when we took the lead against Frankfurt, obviously we were probably like, the plan was, let's go for a second, blah, blah, blah. And Mickey's like, no, let's just hold this and get through these games.
Yeah, but Mickey was also talking about the first season in terms of amazing first 10 games. Teams found us out a little bit, and Ange never really had a plan B. And when the players came back that season, he couldn't seem to like turn it around and get back to that what we showed.
Yeah, but there was obviously reasons for that as well. But that's also true. But what he was specifically talking about the run in that Europa League at that point.
In the interview he spoke about both.
He said, teams started to work out what we were doing, blah, blah, blah. But I get that as well. But we did finish fifth that season. It was a good season. Like, we had a good league finish. So as much as teams figured us out, they weren't good. They didn't figure us out as much to not have a good season. We still had a good season.
Yeah, we had a decent season playing one game a week. Like,
fifth is good. Like, we'd kill
it's
for
decent.
Fifth now.
Yeah. Would you kill for fifth?
Yeah, I think so. I think
I'll be delighted with fifth.
I'll be delighted with fifth this season. Like, that was a good season.
Yeah.
Especially as well, there was so much change. We finished 8th the season before. It was a completely 180 from what we were playing under Conte. We'd taken out a lot of experience out of the team and gone with a fresh new approach. Like, it could have gone a lot worse than it did.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Worse than it did.
I agree with that.
Jack1906 says, I disagree that, talking about Van der Ven here, he says, I disagree that he didn't hint that he wants to leave. In fact, it's clear that he'll be gone in the summer. Listen carefully to what he says. He came to Spurs because of Ange, and although he could see that Ange had weaknesses as a coach, his relationship with Ange was good enough that he could tell him to change his tactics. Frank is just walkthroughs, and more walkthroughs. Boring. I take from that description, he's an ambitious guy, and he'll want to move, especially if results are not improving. We can't keep world-class players at the club if we don't have a world-class manager. So he's saying he felt from the interview he was hinting that he'll be gone in the summer.
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, look, I think that what I took
between the lines,
what I took from the interview is that he's a very ambitious guy, and he didn't say this and he didn't hint this, but from what I took from it in the way he was speaking, that he did. He said he wants to be the best defender in the world in world football. And correct, he's not going to be the best defender in world football if he sticks around with Tottenham, and Tottenham are hovering around mid-table for the next couple of years. That's not going to happen. So if Spurs don't progress and don't improve, and Frank isn't the right guy, and blah blah blah, then he will leave. He will look to leave, and he won't sign the contract. But I don't think that's coming this summer. I think potentially at the very earliest in 2 summers' time.
Yeah, we do have to be a bit worried though if there's no European football next year, especially. Well, obviously, I guess the main thing you would say is when he was one clear hint of his ambition and potentially unhappiness if we don't do this next season is when he was asked about his targets. He said, "What's the target?" He said, "What's it?" He said, "Top 4, or what is it? Top 5 to make Champions League. The goal is to get back in the Champions League." That shows me where his head is at, right? So obviously a lot of the fans' heads this season when we're talking about Frank and this season, a lot of fans who say, 8th is an improvement, and these kind of fans, Van de Ven ain't thinking like that. He's not thinking 8th is acceptable or even Europa League is acceptable. Yeah, he's thinking back in the Champions League. So is he happy about this being a transitional season and us dropping back out of the Champions League going into next season? Will that satisfy his ambition?
No, definitely not. But
could he look to leave if we don't make Champions League?
I think he'll give us 1 more year and give it 1 more crack at the whip, to be honest. I think 1 year is not going to be. Look, I don't think Spurs will even allow him to leave at the end of the season, and I don't think that he'll kick up a fuss. And then if things get back on track the season after and we do make Champions League, could buy him a bit more time and stuff like that. But look, at the end of the day, like whether they think they can make Champions League, like I don't think he's going to be sitting there in the interview being like, "Oh yeah, like anything above 17th is improvement, and if we finish 8th, it's a good season." I think they're obviously going to come out in the press and say, "Yeah, we want to be back in the Champions League next season."
We could have said European football, but there could have been acceptance as big changes. We're gonna get back into Europe. I don't know, but he did say Champions League.
We're playing Champions League football this season, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. So in his mind, obviously he wants to be back in the Champions League. Whether he thinks it's a realistic achievement or not, like I do think it's a realistic achievement. I really do. Like I'm not saying it's an easy achievement, and I don't think it's an achievement that maybe we're favourites for. But I do think it's a realistic achievement for something that Spurs can target this season, and I think that's probably what the players feel like as well.
But is it what the manager feels? Not kind of judging by what he's been saying. Oh, remember we finished 17th last season. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. But like I said to you in the video, I feel like Frank's saying that because he doesn't want them to be playing with pressure and he doesn't want to put too much pressure on them. But I feel like Frank probably believes that it's a possibility as well.
Doesn't give off the impression he does, though.
No, he doesn't.
Chief and Chips says, Mickey and Sim both love Ange. Ben and Brian are best friends with Mr. Hindsight. Mr. Hindsight. Ange's arch nemesis.
I love Ange as well.
No, your best mates with Mr. Hindsight.
Mr. Hindsight.
Mr. Hindsight. Art THFC says, Sim talks about Ange the same way I talk about a lover. Me and Ange, man, 2 peas in a pod.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bring him back. I can't get over him. Still not over you, Ange. Nicholas Sood says, be honest, Ben, you just hate Ange, for God's sake. Now you've got Frank, who's a total basket case of a manager. Good luck. Proof is in the pudding. What has Frank won? Nothing. I'm guessing 1219 is a time code. I don't know what you said at that point in the video, but Ben, just admit it. Be honest.
I don't hate Ange.
Amongst friends.
I do not hate Ange. How many times I have to say I do not hate Ange? I do not hate Ange. I like Ange. I like Ange. I like hearing his press conferences. I love what he did for us in the Europa League. I'm just not sure if he's a good enough manager to take us forward. That's just where I'm at with it. Doesn't mean I hate him. I like him.
You got what you wanted, a total basket case. Total basket case.
Look, I stick by the opinion that I don't think sacking Ange was the wrong move, but I might have to revise my opinion on if hiring Frank was the right move, because at this moment in time, it doesn't seem like hiring Frank was the right move.
Stefanos Allen says, Ben glossing over truth to stick the knife into Ange. Shocker. Go.
Wait. What truth am I glossing over here?
He's about to explain. Glossing over the truth, and you'd like to stick the knife in, Ben. You like to stick the knife in. Go and look at the team and tactics deployed when we beat Brentford away and Liverpool in the first leg of the Cup. No Van de Ven or Romero available. Maybe they missed those games, but Ange definitely showed he's adaptable way before the Frankfurt game. Adam Cleary from 442 even done some proper analysis about how much deeper our line was during the injury crisis and how different we were playing, while shit pundits, AFTV wannabes just rinsed the same lazy narratives about Ange's system and the training getting players injured, even though they weren't even training.
Yeah, I bet he doesn't have these comments about Van de Ven saying that Ange couldn't adapt and Ange didn't have a plan B. Like, yeah, fine. He did well in those games. The Liverpool at home game in the first leg was probably one of our best games last season. Like, we were fantastic that day, but we lost 4-0 in the second leg. We got absolutely torn apart, you know. And Ange in that game tried to he definitely adapted in that game. Went super defensive, and we got eaten alive. And actually, a lot of the times that Ange tried to adapt and go for a different formation and stuff, like, it went horribly wrong, didn't it? And you know, even there were times when he did adapt and it went well, but I think there were more times and more of a sample size when he adapted. Well, maybe not actually. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But some of the times when we changed the formation, it just was horrible, wasn't it?
It was but you've got to remember as well, he's trying to adapt to a crisis. Yeah. So we're literally adapting with Forster in goal and Gray and Day. Like, sometimes, like, they're not good enough. You can win some games, and he did well to win some games. Like, obviously, he should have won more than he did. Don't get me wrong, 17th, blah, blah, blah. But there's also some cases where the team we're playing are just better because they've got better players on the pitch.
Yeah, there are cases both ways, you know. Sometimes even in our injury crisis, we lost to teams that we should never be losing to.
No, that's true.
And even before our injury crisis, losing teams like, well, we shouldn't have even lost to. Like, it was just a lot of give and take with Ange. There were definitely things to be happy about and things to go on and things that you can build on. But I felt like there was always, you know, bad marks as well in there with Ange Postecoglou. Like, people looking back at Ange's time at Spurs being like, oh, it was so amazing, it was great, or looking at it with flowers and roses. That wasn't the case. There was so many red flags in there as well. So I don't know, man. I get, like, last season, in terms of even with the injury crisis, we were able to create more chances than what Frank is doing with more or less a full team. I know we've got injuries now, but he's got a lot more at his disposal. So when you're comparing Frank to Ange, then, yeah, I get the argument, but we're talking about who the best guy is to take Tottenham forward. And I probably don't think either of them at this moment in time.
That's fair enough. Okay. SRV for life says, Ben will never admit sacking Ange was the wrong decision. No matter how far we fall this season, we are worse with better players now. Mate. Ange garnered respect from the players, and I think the importance of that is understated.
Yeah, look, the players respected him. The players did respect him. But like we've mentioned, like I've said all thing, like there were red flags in there as well, even when he did have his first 11. So it wasn't all sunshine and roses. He won the Europa League, which papered over probably some cracks within the way he managed the team and stuff like that. There were some great things in there. Over the 2 years, we had some great times with Ange Postecoglou. But I don't know if we showed enough signs of progression over the last 2 years, but he also was hampered a lot with injuries and he had a lot going against him over the last 2 years as well. So, look, maybe he should have been given a crack at the whip for the third season just to see. But my prediction was if he did get it, he probably would have been sacked, a bit through the season. So, I don't know. Look, my opinion is, like I've stated, I don't think he was the right man to take Spurs forward. My opinion was that Frank is the right guy for the job, but I don't know if he is anymore. Would I sack him now? No, but I don't think he's. From what I've seen, the evidence that we've got, he's not the right man for the job, and maybe sacking Ange for Frank might have been the wrong move, but sacking Ange in itself probably wasn't the wrong move.
But the problem is, we were looking. I remember all the conversation we were having in the summer about other managers, and it pretty much was pretty much Ange, Frank, Glasner, Iraola, or maybe Silva. And my point, I remember at the time was saying, I can understand people looking, maybe I didn't want to sack Ange, but if you did, I understand the reasons. But are you really going to sack him, one of those managers? Is that what we're going to do?
Well, we did.
When we did. And that was always, for me, like, if you're going to sack him, at least have a really good candidate lined up. And for me, none of those were outstanding candidates.
Maybe it was naive of me to think that Frank can play a different and a better style of football at Tottenham than he did at Brentford, and be a more kind of, you know, front foot football as well as being an effective manager and get you know, consistent results. Look, it's still early days, and he's got the opportunity and he's got the time to turn it around. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But as of now, maybe I was a bit naive at times when I was thinking about Thomas Frank coming into Tottenham, and maybe, you know, this is a bridge too far for him and a step too far from him, and we should have gone for one of these kind of Vincenzo Italianos or someone like that. You know what I mean? Who knows? But look, I'm not going to keep repeating myself, but that's my opinion.